Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλησπέρα σας. Με μεγάλη χαρά σας καλωσορίζω στη σημερινή διαδικτυακή μας εκδήλωση. Επειδή μας παρακολουθούν προσκεκλημένοι από το εξωτερικό, αλλά και για να εξυπηρετηθούν οι ξένοι ομιλητές του σημερινού πάνελ, συνεχίζουμε στα αγγλικά. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Mas Alfer. My name is Beria Alexandropoulou, and as the Executive Director and Board Member of Enterprise Greece, I'm particularly excited to host a specific webinar on trade opportunities for Greek companies in the United Arab Emirates. Over 400 companies registered today in our webinar, showing the growing dynamics of this market for Greek exports. 2020 was a year of ever-growing engagement between Greece and the United Arab Emirates, both on a commercial as well as on a geostrategic level. Bilateral trade between Greece and the UAE proved resilient, despite the global downturn caused by the coronavirus pandemic. In 2020, it remained almost at the same level as in 2019, with increased trade in construction materials and pharmaceuticals offsetting declines in petroleum products. Indeed, construction materials, pharmaceuticals, industrial and personal care products show growing potential in the UAE market. The potential for Greek food exports remains significant as well. In addition, UAE's strong focus on technology and innovation coincides with great strides in the last few years for the Greek innovation and tech sectors. Also, as UAE diversifies its economy and increases its efforts on sustainable development, major opportunities for Greek renewable energy companies emerge, as well as for Greek expertise in areas such as water or environmental management. To reinforce such commercial opportunities between our two countries, last year Greece and UAE held two high-level strategic forums with a special focus on trade and investment. Last summer, 4 bilateral MOUs were signed in the areas of culture and creative industries, tourism, small and medium-sized enterprises, and digital governance. We are strongly committed and greatly value the UAE as a gateway for Greek trade in the Middle East. Despite the pandemic, Enterprise Greece was present through the National Pavilion in one of the major trade fairs, Gulf Food, where we successfully supported the Hellenic participation very recently. We participate every year in the Big Five Dubai Construction and Building Materials Fair and Hotel Show Dubai. This year, 2021, is a year of celebration for UAE, marking its golden jubilee, as well as for Greece, celebrating 200 years of independence. We will be celebrating together as well this October when Expo 2020 Dubai opens its gates. For 6 months, this global event, held for the first time in the Middle East, will be connecting minds and creating future. Expo 2020 will explore the opportunities and possibilities of leveraging technology for a sustainable and prosperous future for all. It is my privilege to serve as Deputy Commissioner General for Greece to Expo 2020 Dubai, as Enterprise Greece manages our national participation. Innovation will be Greece's key element of its presence, paving the way for Greek exporters to promote their products and services, and for Greece to showcase its leading role in innovation, technology, and new ideas. You can all check the trade shows and B2B events for UAE and soon more information about Expo Dubai at our website, www.enterprisegreece.gov.gr. At this point, I think it's best to allow our distinguished guests and speakers to explain in more detail the dynamics and prospects of the UAE market, including Expo 2020. We are delighted to have here with us today His Excellency, Mr. Dionysios Zois, Ambassador of Greece to the United Arab Emirates. Following our ambassador, Mr. Pantelis Gassios, Counselor of Economic and Commercial Affairs at the Greek Embassy, and Ms. Maria Kostopoulou, First Secretary and Head of the Economic and Commercial Office of Greece in Dubai, will provide a UAE market overview. I thank them all for their invaluable help in the organization of this event. Also with us today, we have prominent speakers from the Greek and Emirati business communities. Mr. Omar Khan, Director of International Offices from the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Alex Economidis, Managing Director of M Management of Mythos Cuisina and Grill, and Nola Eatery and Social House in Dubai. Dr. Youssef Al-Sadi, Director of Conformity Department of the UAE Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, Mr. Panagiotis Alamanos and Mr. Paul Berndt from Tecna SA in Abu Dhabi. Last but not least, we are also very excited to have here with us today Mr. Adriano Konialidis, Director for International Participants of Expo 2020 Dubai. Without further ado, I now pass the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador, Mr. Dionysios Zois. Thank you.
Καλησπέρα σας, αγαπητοί συμπατριώτες, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased and honored to address today the audience of the first ever webinar which Enterprise Greece is organizing on the UAE market and the prospects for Greek companies. As we are all adapting to the COVID-19 era, I want to congratulate Enterprise Greece case and especially the Executive Director, Mrs. Betty Alexandropoulou, for organizing in close cooperation with our embassy this online event that brings together approximately, as I heard this morning with great pleasure, 400 businessmen from Greece and several outstanding speakers from the public and private sector of the UAE. I'm very happy that we have today with us a top executive of the Dubai Chamber, Mr. Omar Khan, an all-time good friend and highly experienced official who will brief us on the economy and the market of Dubai, as well as about the opportunities that exist for Greek companies. We have also the pleasure to have with us Dr. Youssef Al-Sadi, Conformity Department Director of the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, who will give us guidance on the certification requirements for Greek products entering the UAE market. We have also the great pleasure to hear from some prominent representatives of the Greek business community in the UAE, Mr. Alex Economidis, a true friend of our embassy and an expert in the food and beverage market of Dubai, as well as Mr. Panagiotis Alamanos and Mr. Paul Berndt of the Greek group Terna, a company with significant footprint in the Emirati infrastructure sector. Last but not least, I would like to say that I'm very pleased to present to you our commercial counselor of the embassy, Mr. Pantelis Gassios, who joined us recently, but has a very vast experience of the Arab world in general and the Gulf region in particular, as well as Mrs. Maria Kostopoulou, the head of our economic and commercial office in Dubai, who after 3 years in this post has got a great experience of the local market and is always assisting and facilitating Greek businessmen. As an ambassador who has the honor to serve Greece for many years in the UAE, I'm very proud to say that today the relations between our two countries have reached a level of strategic dimension. There is a strong will by the leadership of Greece and the UAE to further enlarge, deepen and broaden this cooperation in various fields. As we all know, His Excellency the Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, visited twice the UAE last year, a strong indication of the importance that Greece attaches to the UAE. Also, 2 strategic fora have been held within the last year under the leadership of Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology. A number of agreements and MOUs have been signed, with most significant among them being the joint declaration on the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership between the governments of Greece and the UAE. Greece is looking forward to its active participation in Expo Dubai 2020 under the core message, Greece paves the way. We are certain that Dubai, despite the pandemic, will organize the best ever Expo, taking all necessary measures for the protection and safety of all participants and all visitors. We have the pleasure to have with us Mr. Konialidis from the Expo team, who is assisting for the Greek pavilion and will give us a very thorough briefing on Expo. This year, Greece is proudly celebrating 200 years since the beginning of the struggle of the Greek people towards independence. The fact that this year also the UAE will celebrate the 50th anniversary since the establishment of the Federation is a happy coincidence, underlining the common destiny of our 2 friendly nations which look into the future with vision and optimism. I would like to wish to each and every one of you health above all and every success in your endeavors. I thank you very much and I wish to all to stay safe. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Pantelis Gassios. I'm the Economic and Commercial Counselor at the Embassy of Greece in Abu Dhabi. I arrived here at the beginning of last February. Together with my colleague, Mrs. Kostopoulou, who is the head of the Office of Economic and Commercial Affairs in Dubai, we will present to you a few things about the UAE, its market, and its ongoing collaboration with Greece. First of all, a few words about the history. It was the UAE was established in 1971 as a federal state by 7 emirates. Today, the country is holding approximately 6% of the world oil reserves and 3.3% of the world gas reserves. The oil reserves amount to more or less 100 billion barrels, and the gas reserves 215 trillion cubic feet. The UAE occupies the 7th place worldwide in both categories. The oil industry represents more or less 1/4 of the economy, of the GDP of UAE according to 2019 data. The government has for a long time, as a main drive of its policies, the drastic reduction of the dependency on oil and the diversification of the economy. And this has indeed been achieved to a great extent, and they are still working on it, through development policies focusing on green energy and high-tech industries, as well as targeted investment through targeted investment in infrastructures, tourism, trade, agriculture, and other sectors. The UAE is focusing a lot in the utilization of new technologies such as biotech, digital technologies, artificial intelligence, etc. The UAE has one of the highest GDP per capita in the world. We had moderate, relatively moderate real GDP growth till 2019, moderate inflation, a quite balanced budget, moderate, relatively low gross public debt and external debt, adequate foreign exchange reserves, close to $141 billion in the beginning of 2021, exports and re-exports amounting to 316 billion in 2019. 1/3 of them are re-exports, and imports of 342 billion. Top trading partners: China, India, Saudi Arabia, US, Iran, Switzerland, Japan, Germany, Oman, and UK. The currency dirham is pegged to the US dollar with a rate of 3.67 since 1997. According to the latest data, second quarter 2020, the negative GDP growth was of 7.4% for the whole year 2020. The projection of the Central Bank of the UAE is for a recession of 5.8%. Why? Because of the lockdown for at least 2 months of the economy, international oil price decrease, as well as the postponement of Expo 2020. For 2021-2022, things are going to be better, seemingly, with a projected growth of 2.5 and 3.5% respectively. COVID-19 has impacted all the important industries, oil and gas industry because of the drop in demand and the oil price war, also the wholesale and retail trade, which is the second largest sector of the economy, construction because of the general slowdown and the postponement of the Expo, and of course tourism that has worldwide been the most affected, one of the most affected industries, but it's doing better and better, especially because of the pretty aggressive an intensive vaccination program, the government has intervened through a very significant package of approximately $80 billion of monetary and fiscal stimulus for the economy. Main UAE exports: precious stones and jewelry, aluminium, plastic products. Re-exports that we said are 30% of the total, more or less. Electrical equipment, again, precious stones and jewelry, machinery, land transportation, i.e. vehicles. Imports, mostly precious stones, 1/4 of the imports, electrical equipment, machinery, and again, cars. Main destinations, main clients of the UAE: Saudi in both exports and re-exports, India, followed by India, Switzerland, Oman, Kuwait, Iraq. We have also Iran in the re-exports, Greece with very low percentages. For the imports, we see the top 3 suppliers: China, India, US, Japan, and Germany. Greece again with a share of 0.08% in the total UAE imports in 2019. Concerning the bilateral strategic partnership, it started in February 2020. We had, as the previous speaker said, 2 strategic partnership forums in February and July 2020. We had the joint declaration on the establishment of the strategic partnership, 4 MOUs, some of them in new sectors, in digital cooperation, in cultural cooperation, in creative industries, international development, small and medium enterprises, and a joint action program in tourism. Of course, the strategic partnership follows the extensive set of bilateral agreements and initiatives that shape the 2 countries' cooperation framework. We had numerous exchanges of visits. With the latest one was the visit of the Greek Prime Minister last November to Abu Dhabi. We have working groups and work streams following up on the implementation of the various aspects of the strategic partnership. We have the beginning of cooperation between big Emirati funds and Greek development funds, cooperation between the tourism authorities. In the renewable energy sector, Masdar with PPC Renewables, agriculture, culture and creative industries, and development cooperation, focusing especially on joint projects in Africa. Thank you very much, and I'm passing now the floor to my dear colleague, Mrs.
Thank you, Pantelis. I will take it from here. My name is Maria Kostopoulou. I am the head of the Office for Economic and Commercial Affairs of our embassy. We are based in Dubai. So I will continue with the brief presentation of the bilateral trade and sectors of opportunities or even challenges for the Greek companies. The trade balance has been traditionally positive for Greece, reaching in 2020 152 million euros. However, in the last 5 years, the non-oil trade surplus has grown by 6.3%. The bilateral trade of the 2 countries is largely affected by fluctuations in international oil prices and demand, such as occurred last year. In 2020, the Greek exports to the UAE decreased by 7.6% to 234 million euros. That was mainly due to the decrease in the value of the oil exports. However, the non-oil exports of Greece to the UAE in 2020 contracted only by 1.3%. At the same time, the Emirati exports to Greece increased by 5.2% to 64.1 million euros. As a result, the total bilateral trade volume in 2020 decreased by 5.1%, reaching almost 300 million euros. However, it is important to say that the non-oil bilateral trade remained almost at the same level as 2019, despite the crisis of the pandemic. Let's see now the main categories of Greek exports to the UAE and the respective shares in the ranking. In the first category, we find traditionally machinery and equipment, which is mainly engine parts, solar water heaters, water filtering and purifying machinery, parts of lifts, etc. In the second category, we found the tobacco products, mainly cigarettes. In the third category, we find the fisheries, which has improved surprisingly very share compared to 2019, from the 35th to the first position. Following, we see minor fuel articles from building stone, cement, aluminum products, scientific and measurement instruments, mainly telescopes, electrical equipment and material. It is mainly telephones, micros and headphones, pharmaceuticals, paper articles, and spares. Let's focus now on the food and beverage sector that over doubled its exports to the UAE from 7% in 2019 to 15.7% in 2020. This is mainly due to the stunning performance of the fishery sector that increased from 1.2 million euros exports in 2019 to almost 20 million euros in 2020. Following, we see the category of oilseeds, its main cotton seeds, bakery products, natural gas, preserved fruit and vegetables, olive oil, cheese, yogurt, and fresh strawberries. So based on the statistical data, we distinguish the following sectors with opportunities in the UAE market for the Greek products. First, the fisheries, then tobacco products and cigarettes, scientific and measurement instruments, electrical equipment and material, pharmaceuticals, paper articles, coloring matters, paints and varnishes, vegetable and fruit preparations, cottonseed, plastic products, bakery products, dairy products, marble blocks, and wines. On the other hand, we see that there are some Greek products facing challenges, at least in 2020, in the UAE market. These categories are the furs, the furniture, lamps and lighting fittings, fresh fruit, which is due to a big extent to disruptions in the supply chain during the pandemic peak, cosmetics, aluminum products, lifts and lifting equipment, metal articles, copper tubes and pipes, marble tiles and marble articles, as well as olive oil. So after an overview of the statistics and bilateral trade, let's move to the Greek presence to the UAE. Today, approximately 300 Greek interest companies are active in the UAE, mainly in construction, shipping, retail trade, and fair trade. There is also solid Greek presence in trade fairs, taking place mainly in Dubai, but also in Abu Dhabi. I will share with you data from 2019, not 2020, for obvious reasons. In 2019, more than 150 Greek companies exhibited their products in various sectors in exhibitions in the UAE. With the Greek national pavilions in the most important of them, namely the Big Five Show, the Gulf Food, the Arabian Travel Market, the Hotel Show, and the IDEX. Also, every year, promotional actions organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Embassy, the Enterprise Greece, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Tourism, Greek regions, and other private entities take place in the UAE. In 2020, 45 such actions were planned, although only 21 took actually place due to the pandemic. In 2019, 37 such events took place very successfully. So closing this brief presentation, I would like to highlight some critical characteristics of the UAE market. UAE is a cosmopolitan country. Out of a population of 9.3 million inhabitants, only 13% are multinationals. The UAE are member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, which forms a customs union with a common external tariff of 5%. The UAE is the most open economy in the GCC. UAE, and particularly Dubai, are a major international hub for access to the markets of the Middle East, South Asia, North and East Africa, hosting world-class trade exhibitions. Another specific characteristic of the UAE is that the domestic production still is covering a small part of the consumption. Also, the Federation of the UAE has made significant progress towards harmonization of standards and regulatory measures, but still divergence exists in policies and legislation among the different emirates. Another issue that the Greek companies should be aware of is the Arabic culture. The Greek companies should focus in establishing trust-based and friendly relations with their business partners. They should respect and comply to Islamic customs and local rules, such as labeling and halal certification. It is important to say that the critical step for success in entering the market is finding the right local agent or distributor. And summing up, UAE is a highly competitive market. Therefore, Greek exporters should base their strategy and focus on pricing, quality, consistency, credibility, professionalism, and persistence for their successful position. For detailed information about specific sectors, buyers lists, regulatory issues, assistance in commercial disputes, or any other relevant inquiry, please do not hesitate to contact our office or our embassy. Thank you very much. And now I will pass the floor to Mr. Omar Khan, Director of International Offices of Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Just allow me to share my screen. I think everybody can see my screen now. Once again, thank you for having me to speak here. Especially would like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador, and the rest of the team at the Embassy, our long-standing friends. And thank you also for that very eye-opening presentation, as there are many facts and figures as well that were very enlightening to us. Today, very quickly, I want to cover a few highlights about the UAE and Dubai, some general facts and figures, and of course, some very recent ones in terms of what has happened with regards to COVID and Dubai Chamber in 2020, and some of the main highlights. I won't go into everything that we do, but some of the most important key business pillars going forward. And then last but not least, of course, I will talk about some of the synergies that we have potentially with Greece. Of course, the UAE and Dubai are quite competitive. This has been the case for many years. We are quite small, so we have to be very fast, very adaptive, and we also have to be a very good facilitator for the big boys around us. In terms of the e-infrastructure, we're #1 globally. So this is something very new. We're good with global competitiveness. We're one of the top in terms of the safest country to live and work in. We are also the third most resilient economy in the UAE for post-COVID-19. And in terms of innovation, we're #3 in Middle East and North Africa. And of course, ease of doing business and other things such as global entrepreneurship. We're #1 in the region, but 4th globally, but we want to be #1. Of course, Dubai as a city, if you focus down on it, of course, is the first in terms of human development. In the Arab world, it's first in Middle East and North Africa for best city for expats to live, and 5th globally. And it's becoming stronger and stronger, more so post-COVID. It's the 5th city in the world to find a job in 2020, so it's quite attractive still globally. And 2020's leading business and travel destinations, despite the impact that we have had, because of course hospitality, exhibitions, and other business promotion activities and entertainment venues have been challenged as well around the world and in Dubai, of course. And also for medical tourism, we are the sixth globally. So again, you know, coming towards 2020, it was a very tough year for the UAE, for the rest of the world, and I hope you're all staying as safe as possible. In terms of the agility, Dubai and UAE were quite quick in terms of acting with economic stimulus, safety and disinfection programs, not just the manual ones you see here. We even had drones in the city of Dubai that were doing the sanitization. We're doing scientific research as well for prevention and treatment of COVID-19, and the vaccination program in the UAE has been one of the strongest in the world. And very recently we announced through a company in Abu Dhabi connected to Mubadala, we have signed with the Chinese government for the manufacturing of the Sinopharm vaccine here through a UAE company called Jilfar. Again, in terms of the rollout, we've been one of the strongest in the world to roll the vaccines out. In terms of also the option, it's free as well. And of course, this is going to be important in terms of health logistics, and delivering of the vaccine, not just nationally, but towards the regions and our partners around us. Of course, in 2020, the government again took action very quickly. And they have merged many ministries. 50% of the government service centers are all moved online. Even us at the chamber, we went all 100% online. And there's new ministries established for industry and advanced technology. So again, there was a reshuffle, a very strong message sent from the government very quickly. And of course, speaking of the stimulus as well, you could see the total of about $78 billion that was mobilized for 2020 to 2021. Fiscal amount is 33 billion. The monetary stimulus is about 69.7 billion in the way of the central bank support of releasing a lot of the reserves that the UAE banks were maintaining for such times as these, of course, and supporting direct injection of liquidity, as well as additional buffer release as well. In addition to that, there was the launch of the retirement visa, the 10-year-old golden visa, 5-year residency, now also the fast track also to citizenship, the amendment on bankruptcy laws, 100% foreign ownership, and a lot of the activities as well, and the launch of many other different programs to help the UAE and UAE companies remain even more competitive, because we are a facilitator. We always are in the middle of an equation, but we always have to add more value than cost. So again, Dubai is always looking to be that platform, so we're always adding new initiatives on how we can add value to our partners so that they do not bypass us. So that's always part of what we do. Now, looking towards the future, COVID brought out a lot of important industries into the spotlight. Of course, food security and agriculture is very important. Through the work with the Dubai Chamber and the Ministry of Food Security, there's been a setup of a digital platform where all the food suppliers, importers, exporters are listing their capabilities and availabilities. So the Ministry of Food Security knows at any given time what's available. Food wastage was reduced. I think it was less than 1 ton. It went from, I think it was before 100 tons, and now it's gone to almost 0. Looking at space, of course, that's something for the next decades ahead in terms of the space programs, satellites and telecom satellites and so on and so forth. So this is becoming part of our repertoire as well, as we are into space and aerospace. Blockchain strategy is something that's even more important now, where we want to decentralize and reduce the cost of all our systems whenever possible, where we can Uberify our resources and assets, whether they be physical, computer, technological, vehicles, and so on and so forth, or even land as well. 3D printing also has a strategy in terms of construction as well, where we are looking to be less labor intensive and more smart AI intensive. And of course, that will go into everything as the value of the real estate goes up, the value of the footprint of an individual goes up in terms of, let's say, labor supply. this is going to be something that is a resource that will be reduced for higher value addition. Of course, new opportunities that are always on the horizon are related to my field, particularly the international markets that are emerging, such as Africa, which is one of the strongest one with 1.3 billion people. We have, offices there, Latin America as well, and Asia. And it's not just about how are we doing about compared to 2019. It's like a Formula One race. When they do the qualifying lap at the beginning of the Formula One race, you will find out who's in pole position, who's in second place to start the race. And this is what I always say, coming out of the COVID era, it's very important to understand who is capable to deliver, especially in the short to midterm. And that is, of course, the UAE and Dubai. Also, another silver lining since COVID hit, the signing of the Abraham Accords, the UAE relations with Israel is really opening up a lot of opportunities, bringing a lot of investment through here. Now Israel has room to breathe and expand. It's as businessmen have areas to expand into, and of course that's going to probably increase their influence to promote stability in the region as well, which is very interesting because they're looking for business and prosperity. Of course, other industries I already covered. So these are very important factors, and I forgot to mention that the trade with Israel within 6 to 7 months reached 1 billion dirhams. So very quickly it kicked off from zero to that amount. And of course, Dubai has had many different initiatives in terms of the stimulus as well, to show you very locally how proactive we are. In terms of the incentives, at least $1.9 billion were put in terms of reduction of customs fees. There's been a guarantee that there'll be no increase in government fees for 3 years. The municipality fees, tax and tourism dollars are reduced, postponement of rental payments, and many other incentives, especially from COVID time, March to September, and then there's an ongoing program. So again, it's a quick reaction, quick feedback, and this is the kind of business community that you should expect when you hopefully move here to work out of Dubai and through Dubai. Quickly on trade and commerce, you can see that in 2019, at our peak, of course, we had 373 billion US dollars of trade. The first half of 2020 showed 150 billion. Our top trading partners, of course, China, India, USA, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, and I think my colleagues before me highlighted it in more details. But what's very important, again, to notice that Africa, the trade with Africa in 2020 surpassed 2019. Again, this is a good indicator. I just came from Ethiopia. Their growth rate is at the lowest, expected to be at 6.5%. They have 120 million people. It's been a closed market. It's opening. So this is just one part of Africa that we're engaged with. So again, we bring a lot of products, know-how, expertise, which Greece can be a part of from the world. And we have a lot of markets to supply them to. And as well, we can tap into markets in terms of resources, talent, and vice versa to help your business. Tourism as well is something that's very important. It took a very strong hit. We had about 5.5 million visitors in 2020 compared to 16.7. For 2020, we were aiming for 20 million. Unfortunately, COVID happened. But nonetheless, we've kind of shifted our targets. We're slowly growing. The new rules and regulations for time sharing, of course, and many other initiatives in terms of facilitating and liquidating a lot of real estate to become commercially viable is important. And we have a capacity of 120,000 hotel rooms, which we will be pushing as we go towards Expo. So again, it's a really great time to invest in this field because, of course, of the challenges, the reduction in prices. So this is a great opportunity if cash is available. Now, in terms of the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we represent, support, and protect the interests of the business community. We have about 261,000 members in total. And I want to highlight that it's a very important resource of economic research, bulletins, e-resources, information. So do approach us, do go to the chamber. We have a fully dedicated research, economic research team available. So do go to that. We have many other initiatives as well. But one of the ones I really wanted to highlight that's very relevant is the startup ecosystem. Never in the past has it been so vibrant. Of course, there's been a little change with the COVID. Priorities have been reset, but I think startups and scale-ups in particular from all over the world are what Dubai needs and continuously needs. And I'll give you a very good example, and it's a startup called InstaShop. Now, I don't know if anybody knows this. It was started by, of course, a Romanian. I think they had a Russian, but also the leader, the CEO, is a Greek national, John Tsoros, and we're very proud that in 5 to 6 years they have grown with an amazing reputation. They were bought out for $360 million by the German company conglomerate Food Hero. So again, Dubai is a place to really test it, sharpen your company's skills and capabilities, make it big, expand it, and then exit. John is still managing it, and he has a lot of ambitions. And the InstaShop model has become from small mini shop sort of a platform for all the different mini shops, supermarkets to access. Now it's turning into an Amazon because they've expanded their fields from everything to pharmacies to pet food to coffee and specialty products to you know, many different fields. So this is a very conducive environment. So startups and SMEs in Greece look towards Dubai, look towards the Dubai Startup Hub and Dubai Chamber to access. Now, moving forward in the story, what we are talking about is coming to Dubai and working through Dubai. And why? It's not just the exhibitions, it's not just the visitors that are coming here for business. It's what we can do for you once you are here. Now, of course, you've heard about Dubai Ports World, Emirates and Emirates Sky Cargo. Now they're working together for the World Logistics Passport. And this really turbocharges the Dubai logistics capability to help you potentially, importer, exporter, or re-exporter. Dubai Chamber's part in expanding your capabilities, of course, is by putting offices around the world. And we're not putting offices maybe in the EU or USA or other developed markets. We're actually putting them in emerging markets of interest, but of some difficulty, some challenge that you need intelligence on, that you need hand-holding on. So we've set up offices in Africa. We have 4 offices, 2 in the east, 1 in the south, and 1 in the west. They cover their respective regions. In Latin America, we have 3 offices in Argentina and Brazil, in Panama, covering Central America and the Caribbean, with Mexico coming soon. And of course, we have an office in Eurasia and Azerbaijan, covering the Russian Federation and Eurasia, and probably opening one in Russia very soon. In Mumbai, India, we have a presence there as well, help you to access partners, resources, know-how, or markets as well, so that's important. And of course, we have 2 offices in China, one in Shanghai, the commercial capital, the other in Shenzhen, the Silicon Valley of China. Again, this is to enhance your capabilities, to expand abroad, to help you stay in that comfort zone while going outside. So the Dubai Chamber has these business concierges and their teams to make it very easy and as easy as possible and cost effective as possible. We hope to grow the offices network to 20 offices. And again, through 2020, we faced a lot of challenges, but somehow we took the challenges, we gathered the information, we attended so many virtual events, over 400, to gather all the intelligence, and then we started rolling out our own webinars, our own events, our own virtual study missions, and we even engaged, I think we had about 4,700 delegates in 1 year. So we've engaged more than we've ever done before because of COVID and because of the digital capabilities and the talent that we can resource all together and pool. So again, these guys are working for you. So if you're thinking that I might have a cost of a business development manager here in the UAE, that might be 10,000 a month that you pay them, that's 480,000 a year, forget about that. You have 11 offices that speak 9 languages that you just have to pay a membership for, and that's 8,000 dirhams across 4 years. So that's a big difference between 480,000 dirhams. So again, we will be at your service and we'll be happy to do so. Now, shifting to Expo, Dubai Chamber has signed an agreement to be the exclusive business integration partner for Expo, and we will have a lot of activities that we will be working with Expo for in the business realm. Of course, we'll have the Global Business Forum for Africa on 13th to 14th of October this year. This is something very important if Greece wants to be a part of the Africa story. We can really share a lot of information. I just found out Italy is the 6th largest in FDI, the US, China, even Russia is there. So again, there's a lot of opportunity for Greece to play in Africa. I don't see it from my visits, but I think we can help with that. There's also on the 1st and 2nd of November, the Global Islamic Economy Summit as well, being co-organized with Dubai Chamber. We have the 12th World Chambers Congress, 23rd and 25th of November. Global Business Forum for ASEAN is 8th to 9th December 2021, and hopefully we should have opened our Vietnam office by then as well. And of course, the Global Business Forum for Latin America on 23rd, 24th March in 2022. On the right, you will see the different thematic weeks that we are working with Expo on, whether it's space, climate, urban, rural development, knowledge, learning, travel, connectivity, and so on and so forth. Last but not least, the economic relationship between UAE and Greece has been steadily growing, but after 2018 and some of the issues that were highlighted by my colleagues, you see a softening of the import and export. Greece benefited from a balance of trade, a positive balance of trade, but you can see the gap narrowing, and of course 2020 hit the relationship quite hard in terms of the expected. However, and you can see that this was already covered by my colleagues in terms of the products, but I think these are more the traditional products. I think there's a lot of know-how, a lot of innovation in technology, in construction, in many different fields as well, in terms of sustainability that can be worked with. Of course, food products is extremely important and will stay the case. Greece, again, we are in a desert region, so it's not easy to grow food, almost near impossible. We're trying with our leadership and our vision, but nevertheless, it's important that we have partners for food security. So this is something that's very important that we can work with and continue to work with, and we are excellent at moving food all over the world, bringing it in from New Zealand and Australia and taking it to Latin America and vice versa. So again, and of course our connectivity now, as Ines highlighted with the new chamber strategy, that Dubai wants to be connected to 400 cities as well. In terms of sustainable business building and construction, we have about 1,441 projects, only 208 are LEED certified. We're very proud that we have platinum LEED certifications in Dubai Chamber and our own university as well. But this is something that I think Greece can contribute to in terms of green construction, green recycling in construction and products, energy saving materials and best practices and certification as well. This is something that's pioneered here, and I think anything that's pioneered here usually will be exported, whether it's to Saudi, to Qatar, to many different places, or even to the wider region. And of course, in terms of pharmaceuticals, there's a small amount of pharmaceuticals. I think Dubai imports about 0.3% of its pharmaceuticals from Greece. However, it's a big exporter and re-exporter of that. So again, this is another area where I think it's of utmost importance with regards to healthcare and COVID and safety in many products and machinery in the healthcare area. So this is another area that Greece can grow its relationship with Dubai. And last, I just want to cover the fact that recently there was an announcement of the formation or the evolution of Dubai Chamber into 3 chambers of commerce. This Dubai Chamber will be the same building, the same unit, and the same talented team, but we are really disrupting the way we are thinking and the focus. So the most important part is now, instead of having, we've had His Excellency Majid Saif Al Ghurair for 6 years, and the board of directors have strongly supported us, and we thank him for that. Now we have 3 different verticals, 3 areas of focus with 3 different leaders, tripling the horsepower in the leadership of Dubai Chamber. We have, of course, the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry with the honorary chairman Juma Al Majid, a venerated businessman in the community, as well as Abdulaziz Al Ghurair, His Excellency, who will be leading the Dubai Chamber of Commerce. And of course, on another vertical as well, we have the Dubai Chamber for International Trade, headed by His Excellency Sultan bin Sulaim, chairman of DP World. As well, and again, there's so many synergies and accelerants that he can bring into the picture with his support and their vision. And of course, last but not least, Dubai Chamber for the Digital Economy, also headed by His Excellency Minister Al-Ulama, the Minister of AI. And once again, Dubai is one of the fastest adopters, as you saw from the UAE rankings in terms of the digital economy. And so this is going to even further accelerate the program, where we will have a focus and concentration of the the digitized members, the most advanced and expert digitized members, helping to actually accelerate our digitization to be even more competitive. And of course, having the Minister of AI, His Excellency, will really help remove any barriers, amend any requirements in legislation as well, to actually prepare us for the digitization. So again, the Chamber is, in the next few weeks, will be announcing a lot more news about how we're going to work. But again, we are becoming less and less insulated by choice, becoming faster and more aggressive in terms of connectivity, logistics, air, land, and sea, and of course, bridging a lot of relationships, whether it's Africa, Southeast Asia, and a lot of emerging markets. And of course, as you can see, we are bringing a lot of the developing countries or developed countries, whether it's in the US, the EU, to be here at the center of the new world, as I would call it, the new emerging world, especially the virgin economies. And definitely, I would like Greece to play a stronger part here, and we look forward to welcoming you. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Alex Economides. I'm the founder and managing director of a hospitality management company, M Management, and also own and operate various restaurants in Dubai since 2005. I'd like to first of all say thank you to His Excellency, the Ambassador Dionysios Zois, and also for the excellent presentation by Mr. Omar Khan. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the food and beverage industry in the UAE and give you a little bit of an idea of what's happening here on the ground. Yes, Greek gastronomy is a trend in the UAE. People are enjoying Greek cuisine and they're increasingly wanting more of it. This can be seen in the number of Greek restaurants that have opened in the market. For example, in 2011, there were only 2 Greek restaurants, and now there are approximately 20 Greek restaurants, and more continue to open. The size of the UAE restaurant market is one of the biggest in the world. KPMG has reported that Dubai is number 3 globally, coming after Paris and London when considering the number of restaurants per person. Market forecasts also indicate that the UAE restaurant market will continue to grow, and we forecast that the Greek cuisine and Greek products and the demand for them will continue to grow locally and in other regional countries such as Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Qatar. The interest in Greek cuisine has also driven demand for Greek food and beverage products, especially more recently during the COVID period, as we have seen. Greek products are more and more used in restaurants and hotels, which do not offer Greek cuisine, and this can be seen as chefs appreciate the quality of Greek products and use them in international menus. The hotel industry is very big in the UAE, and especially Dubai. It supports the food industry in a big way. Dubai was ranked number 7 as a global tourist destination in 2019, coming after Singapore and Paris. So the demand for food products by hotels is actually an opportunity for Greek suppliers as well. With regards to available products by segment in the UAE, and I'm talking about food segments, I'd like to add to Maria Kostopoulou's presentation and give you a perspective on the ground, what's happening on the ground, to indicate that certain Greek food products which have low availability or no availability here in the market, which is an opportunity to be supplied to the UAE and the region. Fruits and vegetables, for example, is a segment that has a very small market share of Greek products, where we can see on the other hand that there's a good proportion of Italian and Spanish fruits and vegetables in the market, but not Greek. And we would very much like to see more Greek fruits and vegetables in the market here. And there's an example I would like to share with you as well. There's one company, I can't remember the name of it. It's owned by a Bahraini national, and it's a farming company in Greece that farms strawberries. And that company exports strawberries to the UAE and to the Middle East. So that's just a point to consider. If somebody can set up a farm in Greece and export to the Middle East, I think there's room for more exports in fruits and vegetables. In terms of meat products, I could say that we have never seen across meat products available locally in the market, and I think that also reflects on Maria Kostopoulou's presentation, which had the absence of meat products. So that's also an opportunity market for Greek suppliers. Greek dairy products, on the other hand, is a segment we've observed that is fairly healthy and is growing. Especially more recently during COVID, we saw an increase in the variety of Greek dairy products. COVID-19, it has, of course, affected the UAE restaurant market and the UAE business economy in general. However, the food delivery market and the supermarket sales have remained strong. In general, UAE businesses were not as badly affected as they were in Europe. And this can be mainly due to the way that it was handled by the authorities here in the UAE. It was handled in a very, very good way. And the UAE was one of the first countries in the world to provide vaccines to its residents. And that helped the economy to pick up earlier than other economies. During the COVID period, the demand for Greek cuisine and Greek food products continued to grow, and we expect that once the restrictions are eased, the restrictions on restaurants and public gatherings, etc., are eased, which will be very soon, business will be back to normal and with continued growth. What would I say to Greek companies and how they can further promote Greek products? Well, I would say that they have an opportunity here, not only for food and beverage products, but also for the trade and supply of amenities, equipment, and technology that may be related to the food and beverage industry. Companies in the UAE, they look for trusted suppliers and partners that can provide consistent product quality. And it is also very important to note that consistent stock availability is a very important factor. And sometimes it's as important of a factor as the actual product itself. Companies in the UAE put a lot of effort to sell on products to other businesses or restaurants, hotels, supermarkets. And if there is a lack of consistency in stock availability and stock supplies up and down, this can damage business. Therefore, it's important to be consistent to secure a long-term trading relationship with partners here. Overall, I would say to Greek suppliers and investors that the UAE is a good market environment with potential to access regional markets, big and small. And this combined with the growing trend for Greek products, it makes the UAE a great opportunity to do business. Thank you very much. I will now hand you over to the next speaker, which is Dr. Youssef Al-Sadi.
I'm glad to be with you today, and thank you for the Office for Economic and Commercial Affairs at Embassy of Greece in the UAE for giving us this opportunity to talk about certification requirements for the UAE market, especially food and halal certifications. In my presentation today, I will go briefly to regulated products such as drinking water, milk and dairy, juices and beverage, honey and energy drink, and halal food. First, about drinking water and milk and dairy regulation, juice and beverage. For drinking water, the scope to cover all the natural mineral water and bottled drinking water and ice for human consumption, as covered by the UAE standards they are mentioned here. For scope of milk and dairy, the regulated products are yogurt, flavored milk, leban drink, flavored leban, flavored yogurt, dairy and dairy products, pasteurized camel milk, goat milk, and leban. And exempted product from dairy regulation, like such as ice cream and infant milk formula, meals for restaurant, ingredients intended for food processing. About food, juices and beverages, the covered regulated product are juices with milk and general standards for fruit and juices and nectars, flavored artificial drink, artificial fruit juice powder, fruit drink, guava nectar, fresh fruit juices, and their standards as presented. Anyway, all the standards can be accessed through the website, and the website of the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. By the way, it hasn't been officially launched, but you can go to it. It's www.moyat.gov.ae. And as I said, the suppliers are responsible to have a valid trade industry license to obtain the Emirates quality mark according to the procedure adopted by the ministry, and you have to ensure the continuous conformity of the EQM certificate and to comply with all the organic regulation. And if it's labeled as organic, you have to have the organic label. And the organic label from EU, it's accepted already. We have a mutual recognition for the mark of organic. And for halal, he have to, if he labeled as halal, he have to have also halal certificate, and he have to have the halal license mark. Also, he have to be cooperative. Cooperation with any required would be responsible for that supplier. Requirement for Emirates quality mark, as mentioned, for these regulated product, the valid trade license and test report, of course, and valid QMS or food safety management system, international certificate. Usually for food processing, there is an audit, on-site audit, but for country Greece, we are waiving the audit of the factory audit. Here, as you can see, the workflow from start to the end, how to get the certification of the EQM. You do this all online, document submission, application of the payment, and then you apply, and there is a sampling and product testing. That's only the part which is not online. Sampling and product testing and certification review from the test report. And then when certification decisions will be, and there is annual surveillance and market monitoring for your product. And we have also, as I said, regulated product. It's honey is regulated, and energy product, energy drink is regulated also. All energy drink, no alcohol is allowed in it, and it's carbonated beverage. And honey, there's scope, all the scope as according to UAE standard 147, and for an energy drink 1926. Also, a responsibility of supplier to comply with this certification in order and get the certificate of conformity for this product. And the scheme, the workflow, he have to apply for the conformity certificate, upload the document, pay the fees, and document review and the issued certificate. This is an ECAS certificate using certification model B. And the whole list of the requirement to obtain the certificate of conformity for honey and energy drink are similar to all other things. And there is that's all the document required, papers and the testing according to the standards mentioned for the product. The honey test parameters also has been reduced because of the cost during the pandemic. Instead of requesting for 15 test parameter, we are reduced it to 8. Only critical parameters are required as listed here. About UAE halal system, we are requiring a halal certificate for all animal products, and UAE halal system depends on 3 pillars. First pillar is accreditation bodies that will accredit halal certification bodies, in order that halal certification bodies will give for facilities, slaughterhouses or factories, the halal certificate and halal shipment certificate. And we have all the database of all accreditation bodies and halal certification bodies in a whole new platform called halal.ae. You can find everything about halal certification and the process. And all that we are halal sectors, we have pharmaceutical product, not only animal food, the food, also we are included as in cosmetics as optional. If you mention, you can mention halal on cosmetics, provided that you get the halal certificate. Leather and textile products, food, beverage, raw materials, all this require halal certification. This sector is what we have. And this is we have also, I have that international accreditation forum that unifying all the halal accreditation bodies in order to have multilateral agreement with all accreditation bodies. Currently, halal certification bodies, there are 2 halal certification bodies under the process of accreditation, and they are expected to get their accreditation by this May. Currently, if one want to have a halal certificate, they can approach any neighbor countries such as Italy, Croatia, Hungary. As seen in the map, all of them, they have, for example, Italy have 3 halal certification bodies. Croatia, there is 1. Belgium, there is 2. In Germany, there is 4 halal certification bodies, etc. As I said, halal digital, we have platform halal.ae. We have open data of the website, contains everything, approved accreditation bodies, approved halal certification bodies, and all the list of approved facilities such as slaughterhouses, food processing, and all that details. Thank you. This is my short presentation and brief about the certification. And do not hesitate to get in touch with us using email conformity at moyad.gov.ae or customercare@moyad.gov.ae, or get with Maria. Miss Maria, she can get in touch with me or with anyone here in the ministry. Thank you again.
Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, let me thank His Excellency Mr. the Ambassador of Greece, Mr. Zois, for inviting us to participate in this meeting. I'm sure that most of you, if not all, know Terna, which is the construction arm of GEC Terna Group, a group of companies that is active with great success in other sections as well, such as energy. So besides the Balkan and the Greek market, in which Terna has been successfully active for many years now, started its presence in the Middle East in 2005. At the moment, Terna is active either through its branches or through its subsidiaries in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and Iraq. So far, in the said Middle East countries, it has executed a great number of projects, both private building projects as well as governmental infrastructure projects. As regards its presence in UAE, it started in 2006 with the branches initially established in Abu Dhabi and Sharjah, and later on in Dubai. Although, as I previously mentioned, Terna has executed in the Middle East both infrastructure and building projects. In the UAE in particular, it focused on the building projects market alone. Hence, Terna has carried out a number of significant projects, and it's the only Greek company and among the few European companies that have obtained a license for a high-rise building. Moving now to the UAE market in general, we could say that the UAE construction market has had a long periods of glory with strong building activity, which implied a huge number of impressive world-class projects in both infrastructure and building sectors. This said period started in mid-90s and lasted up to 2010. Throughout this time, a very high number of works were executed, which resulted in the UAE being a global reference point as regards constructions, attracting outward-looking companies. Therefore, during that period, the construction industry showed great growth, enabled all companies of the sector to increase their profitability, and what is even more important, to strengthen their experience in the field as they became actively involved in projects of unprecedented size and complexity. However, although the infrastructure projects were always doing well, this was not the case for the market of building construction projects. More specifically, the market has been impacted by the global crisis of the global real estate sector, and the fact that it had started to mature itself. More specifically, in 2010, following the frenetic building construction rates in the UAE, the UAE market started to shrink, given that plenty of buildings existed already, which reduced the need to build more. Consequently, the competition became fierce. This led contractors to lower their bids in order to sustain their position in the market, because they were always viewing the market as a market with a promising future. So in order to sustain their position in the market, they were willing to lower their bids and to get projects with even zero profit margin. The situation at that time was very difficult for the sector, because even the banks were not willing to finance the projects. Allow me to say that in this period, the construction, with the local construction activity in UAE, the Greek companies which were active here had not only to face the competition, but to address the side effects of the economic recession in Greece as well, which made it even more difficult for them to seek financing from banks due to our national country risk. However, the market of UAE has moved up now. Many projects are in place. Of course, the infrastructure sector is always doing well, but the building sector is moving up. Many projects are in place, even more to come. There is a high demand for the construction of hotels, schools, and hospitals. The Greek economy, the last 2 years, is going very well, and if we do not have the side effects of COVID-19, things would be even better. The international banks have reopened their doors to the Greek companies to raise funds and to get facilities for their projects. So in general, we could say that the UAE market is a friendly market and for construction, and we don't have any reason to be optimistic for the future of this market since it's going up. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Paul Berndt. I wasn't sure what I was being referred to. Thank you, Panos, for your thoughts on the market. I will very briefly talk about the projects that Terna did in the United Arab Emirates, as well as perhaps look at the outlook for the construction sector for the future. Now, briefly, just for the viewers or the listeners to understand what Terna has done in the United Arab Emirates, I think it's best for us to perhaps look at some of the projects that we've done. That will give everyone an idea of what sort of work we did, and then the impression can go from there. This is, I hope you can see it on the screen. This is the group divisions that we have for Terna in Greece and actually all over the world, the construction, energy and concessions real estate sector. In fact, out of this group, we dealing with the construction sector in the United Arab Emirates and dealing with item 1, the commercial and residential buildings. Some of the projects that we have undertaken as Terna, I'll link back to the slide. One of the jobs that we did, and I'll mention only 4 and quite briefly, but some of these projects are very dear and close to us. This is the Park Rotana mixed-use complex. It's a very iconic building, certainly for myself. Every time I drive into Abu Dhabi, I can see the 2454, and it was a very reasonable sized project. It was one of our first in the Emirates, and we're very pleased to have built it. Another project that we have undertaken in the Emirates is the Nat Al Emirat Hospital. Again, a very specialized facility. This building has got a lot of intricate design features internally as well as externally, and it is a very successful facility. This project is the Al Riyan project, which is in Sharjah. It was a project for the Sheikh of Sharjah Al Qasimi. Consists of 3 42-story towers, 2 of which are residential and 1 of which is commercial. Again, as Panos has mentioned, this gave us the sort of opened up our wings to start constructing the the high-rise buildings. And I'll mention a little project here, the Dar Al Shifa Hospital, and I'm mentioning it because we kind of in UAE we pride ourselves on hospital construction. Now, we're not as evolved as Terna in Greece and all over the world. We are kind of like a boutique builder in the Emirates, where we offer specialized services for high-level clients. We tend to take on 2 or 3 projects at most at any one time in order to provide full service for the project from beginning to end. We don't change our teams in the construction. Once they start a project, they will continue to the completion. Now, when we're talking about outlook for construction sector, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the future, just as we didn't predict the financial crisis, nor did we predict the COVID-19 pandemic. So perhaps one way to assess where we're going is to look at the negatives and look at the positives, the current situation, and perhaps that can give us some sort of a roadway forward to assess where the market is going. Now, Panos has mentioned this in his presentation. The financial crisis of 2008 and 2010 has certainly hurt the construction industry in UAE, and not on UAE. Obviously, it was a crisis that was felt worldwide. A lot of the companies, quite frankly, are experiencing the aftermath of that crisis, where a lot of them have left UAE. Some companies, which are very well known, have gone into liquidation, because indeed the times are tough. Margins are very low, and you have to be very competitive. Having said that, the COVID-19 crisis hasn't improved the situation, despite the fact that the Emirati government has really done a good job in controlling the situation and has left the door open for people to do business. As was mentioned previously, they didn't lock the country down like Europe has, which stifles any sort of import, export, and development. So kudos to the United Arab Emirates for doing that. But the COVID-19 crisis has provided an environment where there is less projects to tender. And obviously that has an effect on the industry. The testing for COVID-19, for instance, the PCR tests, have also created an environment where there is additional expense and additional cost. Now, if you do one PCR test, that's not a problem. But if you have 4,000 laborers and having to do the PCR test, suddenly the costs escalate, and if they have to be done on a routinely basis, even more so. So these are additional stress points for the industry. Another one being logistics. Perhaps all the other sectors feel that as well, in terms of transporting laborers from camps to building sites. There is a reduction in the capacity that the bus can carry to 1/4 of its previous capacity. Therefore, it means that you either have to get 4 more buses or travel 4 more times back and forth to get the same number of men on site. Now, either of those things costs time and, of course, money. I also have heard in some cases that contracts have been renegotiated, because obviously clients are not certain of the market conditions, and they're kind of wary, and they want to reduce the contract prices, and it gives them an opportunity in a way. Contract renegotiations obviously lead to salary reductions, and the whole spiral goes down from that point forward. People lose confidence and so forth. Now, these are the negatives. Let's put them behind us and let's see where we are, because I believe the United Arab Emirates authorities have tackled the ups and downs of the construction industry very well. For instance, the positives are that, look, there is a soft recovery that's being projected. And in fact, it is coming to fruition to some extent in Dubai with the real estate sector. I mean, even last month, claiming that prices are going up, demand is increasing. So obviously, we're already seeing the signs of some level of recovery, even though we're still are in the throes of COVID, which is a positive sign. In Dubai also, and it was mentioned previously, possibly the expo, I believe it's going to occur in October. There'll be an influx of finances through the expo, and somehow it might trickle down to the construction industry, which is also a positive. In Abu Dhabi, being in Abu Dhabi, in 2020, Abu Dhabi has demolished 728 towers. Now, I didn't know that they had so many to demolish, but nonetheless, that was the case. And in fact, in 2021, they're continuing to demolish further buildings. And one will assume that in the place of those, they will be constructing new towers. And in fact, when you drive around, you can see there is some construction projects already undergoing on those vacant sites. Generally, I believe the United Arab Emirates government is very intelligent in the way they do things. They perceive, they can see where the downturns are, and and they flood the market with infrastructure projects, which is what has been happening throughout the cycle of downturn and upturn from 2008. And in fact, today as well, the government is going ahead with a lot of infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, water pipelines, treatment plants. So that's a very clever way of propping up the construction sector, which is the backbone of any economy, in order to keep it viable. So this is what's happening, and I think that kudos to the United Arab Emirates government that they do provide this extra financial push in order to sustain the construction sector. If you look at the Emirates, whichever Emirates you go to, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, I mean, you see everywhere a lot of construction. Any outsider that comes from overseas and visits any of the Emirates and looks around, I mean, they don't see a downturn in the construction industry. There is a lot of work. So I think in terms of the amount of work that is in the Emirates, there is a lot, and certainly more than anywhere else in the world, I would suggest. So this is certainly a benefit. And is there room for improvement? Surely there is. Will we improve to the levels that we had pre-2008? Probably not, because there may not be, or there isn't a need for it anymore. It's a very mature market now. So any recovery that will occur, I don't think it can hit those astronomical levels that UAE was experiencing pre-2008. So this is optimistic. It is good for the
Mr.
economy.
Brett, you have only 1 minute yet.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
The material sector is tied in very closely to the construction industry, and I believe that Greek producers should approach clients, consultants, engineers, people that create documents to create documents for construction. I mean, another way that they can do this as well is go through the diplomatic channels, which is clearly what is being done now. Now, Greek products are not very widely used in the industry. I could go through, but I have 1 minute, so I don't know how much time I have. Look, Greek products are not widely used. UAE products are used quite extensively. Chinese, German, Italian, Saudi Arabian, Turkish, Omani, Spain, Polish, UK, Indian, USA, Australian, France, Ukraine, Canada, Malaysian, and Austrian products are used. And fundamentally, in all of our projects, we notice that similar countries are being represented. So there is scope for improvement in terms of Greek product use. Thank you for having me. And if there is any questions, by all means, don't hesitate to ask.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to see that so many of you are still connected. Thanks for being with us for so long. I'll try and make it brief. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about Expo 2020 Dubai and tell you what Expo is, what we're trying to achieve through this event, and hopefully how you can engage with us, with the participation of Greece in Expo 2020, and see where we can create opportunities for businessmen and women from Greece. So what is an expo? It's always useful to understand the history of expos. Some of you might know what expos are. They started in 1851 in London with the First World Expo, which left a legacy that all of us know today as Kensington Gardens. Many expos were held since then. Traditionally, World Expos happen every 5 years. And we were meant to have ours in 2020. And like the rest of the world, we had to adapt to the current situation. And we postponed officially. A meeting was held in May in Paris at the International Bureau of Exhibitions, which is the intergovernmental organization that sets the rules and regulations for expos. And a vote took place where all members agreed to postpone the Expo to 2021. And this is why we will be opening on 1st of October 2021 this year and run for 6 months up to 31st of March 2022. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is the first World Expo that is happening in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia region. We are expecting, well, this is a huge feat, a huge fact that needs to be taken into account because it provides an opportunity for the region, for Dubai, for the UAE, and for the region to shine and to show the opportunities that exist here. We are expecting over 190 countries, and even with COVID, we still have over 190 countries committed to participating at Expo 2020, which is a huge, huge feature that we've managed to achieve. It is also the first time in the histories of Expos where every country will have its own pavilion. Now, why is this important? Traditionally, historically, some countries were distributed through clusters or through regional locations. And we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to provide each nation its own opportunity to voice its own, to showcase its own identity and showcase its own achievement. And for that, we promised each country its own pavilion. We provide, so traditionally Expos set a main theme. Our main theme is connecting minds, creating the future. And we have 3 sub-themes under this theme, which are opportunity, mobility, and sustainability. Each single one of them, as you can see, breaks down into different sub-themes of its own, where we encourage each participating country to showcase their achievements, their visions, their challenges within their participation in their pavilion. Where is Expo going to be located? We are at an equidistant location from Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We are connected from a logistic point of view to the port of Jebel Ali through a bonded route that connects the Al Maktoum International Airport to Jebel Ali Port. We are located within a bigger free zone, which is Dubai South, and have created a metro route, which you will see, that allows direct access straight into the Expo 2020. This is what Expo 2020 will look like, and it is near completed. At the moment, all of the infrastructure that we built as organizers is completed. We still have some pavilions that are being built by the countries. As you can see, each petal represents one sub-theme. We've got the petal of opportunity, mobility, sustainability, and at the center, we've got the Al Wasl Plaza. To give you an idea of how big in scale this expo is, you can compare it to twice the size of Monaco, or equivalent to approximately 600 football pitches. So it is a very big area. But we paid close attention how we were going to build this master plan and ensuring that full visibility was given to all the pavilions. With that said, we've got 4 separate entrances. Each petal has its own entrance, and we have one main entrance that has the arrival of the metro route that connects straight into the Al Wasl Plaza with not more than 200, 300 meters walk. We as organizers are constructing 5 pavilions, 3 thematic pavilions, which are the opportunity, mobility, and sustainability, each one emblematic of each sub-theme that we propose. The UAE pavilion, designed by Santiago Calatrava, which is inspired by the falcon, an emblem of the UAE, which will have rotating wings with the day and night. There will be a shift of the wings. It's a pretty impressive structure, and it already is near completed on site. And it will remain its legacy as a national museum, which is an important component of everything that we're doing, which we'll show you shortly. The Al Wasl Dome, which is essentially the heart of Expo, where all the national days of the participating countries will take place. Just to give you an idea of the sheer size of it, it's 67 meters high. So it really is quite impressive when someone walks into there, makes you feel like an absolute little ant, to be very honest. Some of the pavilions that some of the countries have proposed, some really beautiful designs, cutting edge technologies used for these designs more than ever in these times. innovative technologies being pushed to the edge to ensure that not only health and safety standards are met, but also from a design perspective, to be able to showcase the latest architectural developments in each of the countries. You will see once you can explore these on the website as well. Each country highlights a specific theme throughout its pavilion, which takes a visitor through an experience, a visitor experience journey when they visit each of the pavilions of each country. Also, just to give you an idea of the stages and the activities that will be happening on site, there are two key main large stages, which are Jubilee stage and the Dubai Millennium Amphitheater. We've got the Al Wasl Plaza. You've got a number of other stages that we are going to be organizing events. Not only us as organizers, but also the countries can use all of these events all of these venues free of charge. That offers a really unique opportunity for engaging and showcasing the best of each country throughout the 6 months. There's also a small triangle there that you can see in blue, and that is where Greece is going to be located. So a very, very strategic location, which we worked hard with Enterprise Greece to ensure that we had a good location on site. I'm very pleased to share that with you all. It allows really great footfall, driving visitors straight out of the UAE Pavilion or Al Wasl Plaza, and ensuring that there's maximum visibility given to the pavilion. Just to show very briefly some of the outdoor venues, as you can see, so most of these are live pictures taken recently. So as you can see, we can cater for all sizes and all different types of events. Indoor events catered mainly at business events more than anything, offering a platform and opportunity for businesses to find ways of communicating their goals, communicating their products, they're showcasing what they want to find or what they want to achieve through Expo 2020. This is a very interesting tool that we provide all of the participating countries, which allows them to see everything that's happening in Dubai and Expo at one glance, week by week. This is very important because this allows you, the business community in each country, to better identify and be strategic on how you want to visit Dubai and the Expo. So if you have a specific event that you know is happening, well, you will make sure that you visit Dubai and the Expo during that time to ensure that your opportunities increase and that you're able to target the right audience that you want to reach. So we work with the countries to ensure that we help them support the business communities, that we help them communicate this type of information, and ensure that we are there to maximize the impact that can happen. So just to give you an idea, we've got national days, we've got international and special days, we've got theme weeks. This is something that our good friend Omar Han from the Chamber mentioned. What we're doing with theme weeks is we're identifying specific theme weeks, which I'll show you shortly, and ensuring that we program around it, around one specific theme that can allow the country to better identify back home who could be the best opportunities, how they can find the best opportunities to target the right audience and bring them to the Expo. We'll have a number of festivities such as New Year's and Christmas. This is the first time in the history of Expos as well, many first times, that we're going to be celebrating Christmas and New Year's. It's a change of year. Traditionally, Expos happen within 1 year, but due to the current weather, it was agreed that we could do this over a change of year. So this is quite unique, and it allows us to explore really special and strong days. We will have events organized in the Dubai Exhibition Center, which I'll show you, and events organized in Dubai, which are crucial to you when you have the big Gulf Foods or the Big Five events that are happening to maximize the impact that these can have on the visit. These are the thematic weeks that we were talking about. As you see, we're really focusing on specific topics, specific themes to allow to better develop around it. I'm going to jump into the business program and talk more about what we can do with thematic weeks during the program. I do not need to go through this. We all know that Dubai is an international business center, and the strategic location of Dubai allows for a strong potential and strong opportunities to be offered to anyone who comes here to look for creating commercial opportunities. The Dubai Chamber is obviously our official partner, and we mentioned already the 3 key forums that are going to take place at the Expo. And here I come back to the thematic business forums, because we are organizing specific business forums around each thematic week. This allows specific companies to showcase their products or specific events to happen around a specific theme. So by working closely with the countries that are participating and the authorities that represent the country's participation, in this case Enterprise Greece, we maximize the impact to the business community. We maximize the opportunities that are created for the business communities in each of these industries. And this is very important because we know how important private sector is to the participation of countries in Expo. We know, and we see more than ever at this time, after we're still within this COVID era and we're still trying to adapt and understand it, but we see that countries that are participating in this Expo are more and more turning this into an opportunity for creating business, an opportunity for commercial engagement. More and more countries that perhaps were looking only at tourism or FDI attraction back home are now seeking more and more engagement from the private sector back home to allow them to engage in a new platform, a platform that might create opportunities for you that were not there before, a new market, a market to re-export to. We talked about re-exporting as being one of the key assets of Dubai, and that is true. We have a logistical capability in the city that is unique. You can come here, set up an office, and be exporting in less than a month to the key markets around you here, Saudi, Africa, Asia. We will also be creating an app that we're providing access to the participants, the countries, as well as to the wider business community to engage directly with other businesses and governments to see how best to maximize the networking opportunities for the private sector. We will also have a business center connect where we will house the Chamber of Commerce's from not only the UAE, but all of the Gulf Cooperation Council. This is very important because any private sector company that comes to see Expo can go and knock on the door of the Chambers of Commerce of Saudi, of Bahrain, Oman. We will have trade entities from the UAE and GCC. We'll have investment funds, venture capitalists. So it's going to be a business community that will be created in Expo automatically by hosting these people there. We will also be creating a business calendar where we're going to be updating and distributing regularly all the visiting delegations that we will be receiving in Expo to the wider public. So we will know when a key minister is coming with a wider delegation of 50 companies, let's say from China, and we will make sure that this is listed there so that anyone who wants to target the Chinese market can do so. So this is a crucial tool that will be open and available to all on our website. And this is a Dubai Exhibition Center that we were talking about just earlier, which will really host some key mega events that either countries or ourselves will be hosting there, going from entertainment, gastronomy, cultural events, architecture, and different business specifically targeted industry focused events. It is important, lastly, to tell you a little bit about the legacy, because what we're building here is going to last post-Expo. We're building what is going to be called District 2020. You can see here just a couple of examples on how some of the infrastructure that we're building is going to translate into the future. Just so that you understand the impact of Expo 2020, 85% of what we are building is staying for District 2020. What the countries build, some countries build their own pavilion. Their own pavilions have to be dismantled and handed back over to, the plots has to be handed back over to us. But what we build as organizer remains post-Expo. 85% of what we build remains. So we will have a Children and Science, the Children and Science Center and the Sustainability Pavilion. The UAE Pavilion will become a museum. Corporate head offices for leading global companies will be set in the Mobility Pavilion. And the Al Wasl Plaza will be hosting mega events. And finally, very, very important program called Scale to Dubai is taking place through Expo 2020, which essentially is a global entrepreneurs program designed to support the innovation strategy of District 2020. So what do we do here? We're trying to attract startups and small businesses that are ready to expand and scale. But we're focusing on specific industries, as you can see. So smart logistics, technologies, blockchain, Internet of Things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we're looking at specific industries that you can basically apply to Scale to Dubai, either through the website or through the responsible national authority that is leading the country's participation in Expo, in this case, Enterprise Greece. And the winners of this Scale to Dubai program will receive 2 years free workspace, 2 years visa, a business setup, a community lifestyle, integrating them into the incubation system that we're creating within District 2020, subsidized urban living, access to special rates, and essentially a calendar of all the networking events that are happening. So it's a very interesting incentive for startups to look at Dubai, another platform. Already many platforms exist in Dubai, obviously, set up, but we hope that we can add to the ecosystem of Dubai through this Scale to Dubai platform. Finally, just to give you examples of some of our partners, as you can see, official partners Dubai Chamber, but many others have joined the journey, and we're very thankful to all of these fantastic partners that are together with us experiencing Expo 2020. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all at Expo 2020. Thanks again.
Dear guests, distinguished guests, we would like to thank you for your insightful presentations. Now we're in the Q&As session. We're going to address only one question to Mr. Omar Khan, Director of International Offices, Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Khan, recently Dubai government announced a restructuring of the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry, creating 3 chambers focusing on international trade and digitalization. How do you think that Greek companies can benefit from the increased focus of the United Arab Emirates government on transforming Dubai an international trade hub, and may you highlight some sectors?
Well, thank you again for that question. As I said, what's going to happen is it's going to be an accelerated program that's very focused. Of course, the Dubai Chamber of Commerce will be focused on the traders, the existing businessmen and women, and the policy advocacy and how we create a favorable business environment faster. And again, His Excellency Abdulaziz Al Ghurair is a very shrewd businessman. He is the head of, chairman of Mashruq Bank, and many other positions as well, including the head of the UAE Saudi Business Council. So, where Dubai Chamber has been working with him before. So that will be, like I said, an accelerated channel on focusing on the business. The international trade expansion, again, with Emirates Sky Cargo, DP World, and the World Logistics Passport. And in that program is also Dubai Chamber, Danata, Dubai Exports, and so many other more entities, ensuring that this loyalty program for exports, like Emirates Skyward loyalty program and points, makes you more loyal to Emirates. The same will be for the World Logistics Passport along the South-South corridor. So again, we're very aligned. We have His Excellency Sultan bin Sulaim, Chairman of DP World, heading this. And again, there's the leadership, the vision, the knowledge from what's happening around the ports in the world, and of course that combined with the capabilities of the chamber and the capabilities of Dubai and the UAE, again, is going to help expand our footprint. And again, whatever happens, already I'm trying to convince also like the managing director, CEO of InstaShop, to look towards Africa regarding some of the, what they provide, whether it's also healthcare logistics and healthcare manufacturing for COVID products, whether it's sanitary equipment, sprays, sanitizers, and even test kits and so on and so forth. So these are very interesting areas. And like I said, Dubai's capability in the international market is access to markets, to projects, to talent and resources from all over the world, as well as, of course, to resources in terms of raw materials, commodities, semi-finished products. So it can really be configured based on whatever the Greek businessman or woman would like to see. If they are looking for markets, Africa alone has about 1.4 billion people. India is just to our east. And of course, even China, where some people might think it might be difficult to enter the Chinese market, there are different ways to do this through educating yourself through the capabilities of our offices and other partners. So that's the Chamber of International Trade. And of course, the digital economy, again, is about, and there's more that I'm sure will be shared, but it's again the reason I think His Excellency is in charge because of his capability in AI. And we want the adoption of digital capabilities, whether it's in healthcare, trade, education, logistics, retail, e-commerce, anything, any aspect, and even in fashion as well, in so many different places, we want to inject, of course, the digital economy in that in every way, whether it's adoption of cryptocurrency acceptability, adoption of blockchain technology in the government and the private sector, and how we can utilize it as well with all the other components. So the Chamber of Commerce, again, is, like I said, you saw our agenda for Expo. It's going to be very active. And now there's going to be, like I said, a turbocharging with the three different leaders that are going to be active with the three different verticals of Dubai Chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Another question which have been submitted, it's addressed to Dr. Yusuf Al-Saadi. Mr. Dr. Saadi, products of animal origin need halal certification issued by a local certification body at the country of origin, recognized by the UAE authorities. Given that there is no such body in Greece recognized by your ministry, which certification bodies should Greek companies address to in order to issue halal certification for the United Arab Emirates?
Any halal certification bodies in any neighbor countries. For example, Germany's have 4 halal certification bodies are accredited for us here in UAE. If you go to the website halal.ae, you can see all the countries which I have listed before. You can
Thank you.
see. If you want me, I will show you the countries, for example, in Italy or Croatia or Hungary or Ukraine, Belgium, any of these can be approached, any neighbor countries.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Dr. Youssef. We would like to thank you. It was the last question. We'd like to thank you, our distinguished speakers, for their excellent input. I see that you have already departed. I'm sorry for the interruption. Είχα σταματήσει ευχαριστώντας τους ομιλητές. Τώρα ευχαριστώ και εσάς για τη συμμετοχή σας. Και σας καλούμε να παρακολουθήσετε τις επόμενες δράσεις μας, καθώς και τα άλλα webinars της σειράς Doing the Business. Σας ευχαριστούμε και πάλι για τη συμμετοχή σας.